Hey folks, Plastic Eric here, Plastic Soundwave Colt, here for a smoking hot, we're talking 3 digits collection connection. The game that's just an excuse to talk about music and look at cats. It's a game that I play with my brother Bryce over on Good Show Ponsonby. I show an album from my collection, he shows an album from his collection that connects to that, and then I show an album from my collection that connects to the one that he showed. And every Monday I do a video, and every Thursday he does a video. His videos are starting to do quite well now, so thanks for going over there and checking out his videos. And then the whole key thing is you guys get to figure out what the connection is between the 2 albums that we talk about in the particular video. And so the last video that we had, the connection between Christopher Cross's self-titled album and Joe Jackson's album, Laughter and Lust. The connection was both bands have a double letter, like Christopher Cross, 2 C's, Joe Jackson, 2 J's. So I guess the moniker, if they had their own towels, they would be double letters. And of course that was correctly answered by Murdoch over at the Murdoch Music Minute. He's been a huge champion of our channel. He has a great channel of his own. At this point, I'm starting to think that maybe the challenge should be, can you answer the question before Murdoch can? Which I doubt any of you can. So, the album Laughter and Lust that Bryce did last Thursday by Joe Jackson. I listened to that, and overall, I found it quite pleasant. I really like his version of Oh Well on there. It's definitely a little bit different, which will be something interesting that comes up later in this video. Not necessarily about Joe Jackson, but about covers. And the singles that came off of this seemed to be pretty good. Overall, I just enjoyed the album. I don't understand why it got such a bad review when it came out. I guess one particular music review magazine or publication basically compared him to whining about his, problems as the same as like Phil Collins pretending to be Public Enemy, which is pretty harsh. I don't know why they jumped all over the album the way that they did. Like I said, overall it sounds pretty good. I think it harkens back to his earlier work. So, like I'm the Man and Why Is She Going Out With Him? It seems to fall more in that category, whereas later on he did more like big band music and things like that. And so, I guess it did barely chart, only in England. I don't think he did too much here in the States with it. But overall, the album I thought was pretty good. I looked into the history of it. I guess he had a lot of writer's block working on this album and subsequently after it. And so overall, I think it's an okay album. I don't think I'll be rushing out to getting it anytime soon. I'd much rather get those albums that he did in the early 80s that sound similar to this, but somehow felt a little bit more authentic, if that makes any sense, because it still really has an 80s sound, even though this album was done in the 90s. And so it's that. Let's go on to figure out what I connected it to. And so for my connection, I did kind of a double connection. Interesting enough, I was looking for the one connection, did not come up with anything, went with another connection, and then I realized that my original connection would have worked with this. And the album that I connected to Joe Jackson's Laughter and Lust, Bad Religion, Stranger Than Fiction. Their best-selling album. I don't know if anybody would call it their favorite necessarily. That's a Bad Religion fan. Probably a lot of the original fans that jumped off at this time. I didn't get into Bad Religion until Generator. My favorite album from them is their first one, How Could Hell Be Any Worse? I think that's just one of the most punk sounding albums out there. And then they had their disastrous prog album, and then they kind of went back to kind of heavy punk sound to me when they got back into it. But this album here really put them on the map, and I think it was really the only album that did put them on the map as far as like with the general public. Singles off of here, obviously the title track, Stranger Than Fiction. Not a bad song. I believe Infected was another single off of here. And I don't know if they made it a single, but they did a cover of their own song, 21st Century Digital Boy. Or is it 20th Century Digital Boy? No, it's 21st Century Digital Boy. And the weird thing about that particular cover is you know, you'd think they'd put like a different spin on it. And before I did this, because I wanted to make sure, I always thought that they sounded pretty similar, and I'd be hard pressed to be able to really tell which one is which if you just gave it to me at random. Though I feel like the one on here is a little quieter, there's a little bit more pop in the original, but for the most part, it was pretty much a carbon copy of that song. So it's weird, I don't know if that was put on there to harken back to their catalog that was on Epitaph Records, but overall, that version is better than the version that's on here. All the other songs on here are adequate. Again, at this time, I was starting to feel that Bad Religion was starting to sound a little bit the same, and it's also about the time that David Gurewitz left. And one of the reasons why David Gurewitz left was because he was feeling that the band was selling out, along with many of the Bad Religion fans out there. And the album that came out before this, though it was retroactive, might show the reason why. And I could show you because I have both versions of Recipe for Hate. Looks pretty much the same on the front, slightly different on the back, but the big change comes in the form of, oops, let me get these even. I don't know how well it's going to show this in here. I'm getting a lot of reflection, but you can kind of see that already that these spines are different. A little bit different artwork on each one. And I believe the CD, and I'm just doing this live, so I'm not sure if this is going to work out. It might be that the CDs look exactly the same, but they don't. So this is the original, I believe. Yes. So this is the original version of it, and this is the repress version of it. I bought this one here when it first came out, and my wife bought this one later on down the road, and when we got married, we merged the two. And of course, I end up with the two different versions. Though they basically sound the same when you listen to them, I think overall, again, Bad Religion was establishing their sound definitely at that point, which led to this one right here. And a sound that seemed to continue on from that point. To be honest, I jumped off after probably No Substance, because that's kind of how I felt about that album. But other than that, the Gray Race after this one wasn't bad. But this was the one that pissed off a lot of Bad Religion fans. And what's funny is I've seen them for these different tours. And golly, I think one of the last times I saw them was like when I was 25. And which would have been for this tour. And unfortunately, I'm in the pit, I'm doing my thing, and I have some 18-year-old guy telling me, oh, it's good to have an old guy like you in the crowd. And at first I took it as an insult, but I think he meant that the crowd was generally younger, and a lot of fans that you would have seen at a Bad Religion show weren't there anymore. I don't know if that was a continued thing for them or not, but overall, I found it that I could listen to a few more of their albums, but as time went on, it was getting a little bit mundane for punk music. And so with that, just a little history on both of those albums that I have on them. Overall, I think it'd be pretty easy, pretty simple to figure out exactly